Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Rain fell in fine silver needles on the slippery cobblestones of the city. In a narrow alley, lit by a single flickering street lamp, a young girl trembled, clutching a small, time-worn wooden box. Her clothes, patched and covered in mud, told of a life of deprivation. Yet in her eyes shone a light that nothing and no one had managed to extinguish: hope. Her name was Lily Thompson, and this box was all she owned. Inside was her only true treasure, a gold pendant, set with a sparkling diamond, an heirloom from her late mother. To her, it was priceless, but hunger and cold don't make feelings. As she hesitated to step through the door of a luxurious hotel, she felt her heart race. Inside, an impeccably dressed man with a penetrating gaze was observing the guests with natural authority. Alexander Grant, a billionaire renowned for his colossal fortune and his flair for impossible deals, almost never noticed those who didn't matter, except tonight. Lily, trembling, handed the box to Alexander, her voice barely audible. "Sir. I have nothing else to sell, take this." The billionaire raised an eyebrow as he stared at the small box. He picked it up with a mixture of curiosity and surprise. What he saw inside wasn't just a jewel, it was a burst of beauty, history, and pain concentrated into a single object. For the first time in his life, Alexander Grant felt something no amount of money could buy: pure sincerity, the soul of a girl who had lost everything but never lost her courage. This simple gesture, this humble and fragile treasure, would change his life in ways no transaction, no fortune, no strategy could have predicted. And as the rain continued to fall, Lily and Alexander's fate had just changed. Lily left the hotel, the empty box in her trembling hand. She had expected the billionaire's cold indifference, but Alexander Grant hadn't simply acknowledged her, he had looked at her. His gray eyes, piercing but strangely attentive, seemed to probe her soul. "Wait," he said finally, his deep voice echoing in the damp alley. Lily froze. Every fiber of her body screamed at her to run. She had always been taught to distrust the rich, those who had everything and had never known hunger or fear. Alexander approached slowly, holding the box in his leather-gloved hands. "This jewel, your mother really left it to you?" he asked, his curiosity more sincere than any of the questions he usually asked his business partners. Lily felt her heart race. Who was this man to ask such a question? Who could possibly understand what this simple pendant represented? "Yes, that was the only memory I had of her," she murmured. The billionaire inclined his head slightly. There was a rare mixture of fascination and respect in his gaze. He reached out and, with unexpected gentleness, closed the box. "I can't offer you money for that. But I can promise you something more valuable. A future." These words echoed in Lily's mind. A future, after a life of poverty and rejection, the sentence seemed unreal. And yet, deep within her, she felt a spark of confidence. Without knowing why, she nodded. It was the beginning of a strange and fragile bond, a bond that would turn both of their lives upside down. What had started as a simple transaction had become the first step toward an unexpected destiny. But Alexander didn't yet know that this box was only the gateway to a much bigger secret, a secret that would forever change his perception of the world and those he thought he knew. The next morning, Alexander Grant couldn't get the image of Lily out of his mind. He tried to resume his meetings, his files, his negotiations, but his thoughts kept returning to that young girl with bright eyes, trembling in the rain. He wanted to understand what she was hiding behind that simple jewel. Meanwhile, Lily wandered the narrow streets of the city, pondering the rich man's strange proposition. She had never known security, and the idea of a different future seemed both terrifying and fascinating. Yet something inside her refused to be completely seduced by his promises. She had learned to trust no one, especially not those who wielded so much power. What made this box so special wasn't just its material value. Inside was a small, almost invisible secret compartment that Lily had never dared to open herself. Her mother had always told her, "One day, this treasure will show you the way, but only when you're ready." Curious and determined to protect her inheritance, Lily decided that morning to reveal the secret of the box. To her surprise, Alexander appeared at her door. He had discreetly followed his intuition and found the alley where she lived, modest but clean despite the poverty. "You came to see me," Lily said suspiciously. "I came because I want to understand," Alexander replied calmly, without arrogance. "This jewel is not just a jewel. I feel it." Lily opened the small secret compartment. Inside, an antique notebook covered in black leather waited. The pages, yellowed by time, contained notes, drawings, and mysterious coordinates. It was as if her mother had left her a coded message, a path to something greater than anything she had imagined. Alexander gently took the notebook in his hands. The weight of the object seemed much more symbolic than material. Leafing through it, he felt a shiver run down his spine. Here was a story of courage, of struggle, and a secret that no one in the world could have suspected. "It's not just an inheritance," Lily murmured. "It's the key to something I need to understand for myself." Alexander nodded, instinctively understanding that they had both reached a crucial milestone. Their meeting was no accident. Fate, it seemed, had far more in store for them than either of them could have imagined. And so, what had started as a simple exchange of jewelry would now lead them on an unexpected journey, between family mysteries and revelations capable of changing their lives forever. Lily and Alexander were seeing each other more and more often, but this closeness also fueled invisible tensions. Lily's notebook wasn't just a sentimental heirloom. Its pages contained clues to an ancient hidden fortune and family secrets that powerful people would have given anything to recover. One evening, while they were examining the notebook in a small, discreet cafe in the city, Lily suddenly felt a chill run down the back of her neck. Eyes were watching them from across the room. Men in suits, discreet but menacing, were recording every move. "Alexander. I think we're being followed," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Calm down," he replied, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "But you're right, we have to be careful." They left the cafe through a back door, passing through dark, narrow alleys. Alexander, despite his imposing stature and wealth, moved with surprising discretion. Lily, on the other hand, felt her heart pound, aware that her life, until then one of modest survival, had just tipped into real danger. Back in her small apartment, Lily examined the notebook again. Among the coordinates and drawings, one note caught her eye: "Safe place, the truth awaits." "We have to go," she said determinedly. "It might be the only place we'll be safe, or where we'll find what my mother wanted me to discover." Alexander nodded. Despite his wealth, he had rarely been confronted with a mystery that concerned him so personally. And yet, he felt that protecting Lily was no longer a mere curiosity, but a necessity. That night, as they prepared to follow the clues in the notebook, a hooded figure silently approached the apartment. It went unnoticed by the naked eye, but a discreet security camera recorded every move. Someone already knew that Lily held the key to an ancient and powerful secret, and they were prepared to do anything to get it. The danger was no longer just imminent. It was at their doorstep. At dawn, Lily and Alexander met at the train station, the notebook securely tucked into a worn bag the girl always carried with her. The safe place indicated in the pages seemed to be in a small, isolated town, several hours away by train. For Lily, it was a frightening adventure. She had never left her neighborhood, let alone undertaken such a distant journey. But in her eyes shone a new determination. She was no longer just a poor girl trying to survive, she was the heir to a mystery that even a billionaire had yet to unravel. Alexander, on the other hand, wasn't used to this kind of travel. Usually, he traveled by private jet, surrounded by assistants. But this time, he had chosen to travel discreetly. No luxury. No comfort. Just him, Lily, and a notebook capable of changing their destiny. The train moved off. Through the window, the city receded into the distance, engulfed by the morning mist. Alexander watched Lily thoughtfully. She had that raw courage, that inner fire that money couldn't buy. And without realizing it, he was beginning to admire her. But just when they thought they'd lost their pursuers, something chilled Lily. In the reflection of the window, she spotted a familiar face. One of the suited men who had followed them the day before was in the same carriage. "Alexander," she whispered, her throat tight. "They're here." The billionaire slowly turned his head, and his gaze hardened. "Good. Then we'll see how far they're willing to go." At that moment, the notebook slipped slightly from his bag, revealing a page neither of them had noticed before, a symbol etched in red ink, resembling an ancient coat of arms. Beneath it, 3 words were written. "Protect the key." Alexander understood that this journey would not only be a quest for truth, but a real fight for their survival. And the first clash was about to begin much sooner than they had imagined. The carriage rocked gently to the rhythm of the tracks, but the air was charged with electric tension. Lily clutched her bag to her heart beating so loudly she thought everyone could hear it. Alexander, however, remained icy calm, observing every movement around them. The man in the suit, sitting 2 rows back, made an almost imperceptible sign. Immediately, 2 other figures stood up, slowly moving down the central aisle. The trap was closing. "Don't move," Alexander whispered to Lily. "Whatever happens, keep this notebook." But Lily shook her head. "I'm not going to let you face this alone. This is my legacy, this is my battle too." Alexander gave a brief smile. She wasn't a fragile victim, but a fighter ready to defend what mattered. The men in suits reached them. The first one took a polite but icy tone. "This notebook does not belong to you. Give it to us, and no one will be hurt." Alexander stood up slowly, dominating the scene with his stature and natural authority. "Do you really think you can get on that train, threaten a young woman, and walk away unharmed?" Without waiting for a response, he roughly grabbed one of the men's wrist, twisting it with a force his elegant appearance belied. The second attacked immediately, but Lily reacted instinctively. She knocked a jug of water onto the floor, causing the man to slide and crash into the seats. The passengers screamed, some rushed to other carriages, but no one dared to intervene. The third man surreptitiously drew a thin blade, aimed straight at Lily. Alexander leaped forward, intercepting the movement in time. The struggle was brief but violent. In the end, the man, dazed, collapsed against the metal wall. Alexander caught his breath and stared at Lily. "Do you see now? This is not just a legacy. It's a war." Lily, still trembling, clutched the notebook to her chest. She no longer had any doubts. If her mother had entrusted her with this secret, it was because she was destined to protect it, at all costs. In the distance, the conductor's voice announced the next station. But Lily and Alexander already knew they couldn't get off like ordinary passengers. Their enemies were everywhere. And the most worrying thing still remained in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The train whistled as it entered a small station nestled in the hills. The place seemed peaceful, almost timeless, with its stone houses and deserted cobblestone streets. Yet Lily felt deep down that this place hadn't been chosen at random. The notebook had led them here for a reason. They descended discreetly, avoiding the curious glances of the few passers-by. The setting sun bathed the city in a golden glow, but the atmosphere remained heavy, as if every alleyway hid a forgotten truth. "It's here," Lily said, pointing to a page in her notebook where the address was scribbled half-erased. A dilapidated old building, covered in ivy, stood at the end of a silent alley. Alexander frowned. "Are you sure? It looks more like an abandoned house than a shelter." Yet, as soon as they crossed the threshold, something changed. The air was filled with the familiar scent of old paper and wax. From the shadows, a figure slowly stepped out, an old man with white hair, wearing a worn coat. His blue eyes, piercing despite his age, rested on Lily. "You look so much like him," he murmured. You knew my mother?" Lily stammered. The old man nodded. "I was her friend, her confidant. She knew that the day would come when you, her daughter, would follow this path. And she asked me to help you." He approached with respectful slowness, placing his hand on the notebook Lily still clutched to her. "What you possess is not just an inheritance. It is the key to a truth that your mother protected all her life, and that others still seek to destroy. Alexander intervened, suspicious. Who are these men chasing us? Why are they risking everything for an old notebook? The old man's gaze darkened. Because they know what this notebook contains, the clue to a treasure, but not a treasure of gold or precious stones. A secret powerful enough to overthrow entire families of powerful people. Lily felt a shiver run through her. So her mother had always carried this burden. And now it was her turn to defend him. But before they could learn more, there was a sharp noise. The door had been forced open. Armed figures were already appearing in the shadows of the alleyway. Danger had found them again. The old building shook as the door shattered. Men in black, their faces masked, flooded into the room with military precision. The old man took a step back, his eyes fixed on Lily. "Protect the notebook, no matter what," he shouted in a firm voice. Alexander instinctively stepped in front of Lily, his steely gaze challenging the intruders. "You will not touch what she protects," he said, each word laden with icy assurance. The first man lunged forward. Alexander sent him flying into a dusty wardrobe with a sharp movement. But there were too many of them. One of them tried to grab Lily's bag. In a burst of courage, she lifted a candlestick from a table and brought it down with all her might, knocking the assailant unconscious. Her heart was pounding. She'd never laid a hand on anyone, but tonight, she understood that protecting her mother's legacy also meant fighting. The old man, despite his age, opened a trapdoor hidden under a worn carpet. "This way," he shouted. Alexander grabbed Lily by the hand and pushed her toward the opening. But as she climbed down, one of the men fired a shot. The bullet ricocheted off the wall, grazing the billionaire's shoulder. Lily screamed his name, but Alexander remained standing, his teeth clenched. "Get down. I'll join you," he ordered. Lily refused to move. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained firm. "I'm not leaving without you." Their eyes met for a split second. Alexander realized that this seemingly fragile girl possessed a strength he had never seen in anyone. Together, they jumped into the trapdoor, disappearing into the darkness, as bullets whistled overhead. In the basement of the old house, lit only by an oil lamp, Lily and Alexander panted, exhausted but alive. The old man closed the trapdoor above them. "That was just the beginning," he said gravely. "If you want to discover the truth, it will take more than courage, it will take a willingness to lose everything." Lily clutched the notebook to her, her hands still trembling. But in her eyes shone a new light. The fear was still there, but she would not back down. The underground passages stretched beneath the old building like a forgotten labyrinth. The stone walls oozed damp, and every footstep echoed in the darkness. Lily moved forward, clutching the notebook to her chest, followed closely by Alexander, who kept a watchful eye on their rear. The old man led the way, his oil lamp casting flickering shadows on the walls. After several minutes of walking in silence, they reached an iron door, rusted with age. The old man took out a small key hanging from his neck and inserted it into the lock. The creaking sound that followed sent shivers down Lily's spine. On the other side, a circular room awaited them. Shelves lined with old books, ancient maps pinned to the wall, and in the center, a massive chest resting on a stone plinth. "Here," said the old man in a meaningful voice. "Your mother came often. This was her secret sanctuary." Lily felt her breath catch. She slowly approached the chest, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the cold metal. The lid had the same red symbol engraved on it as in the notebook. Alexander moved closer. "Open it," he said softly, almost like a solemn invitation. Carefully, Lily inserted the key hidden in the lining of the notebook. The chest opened with an ominous creak. Inside, there was no gold or jewels, but a collection of carefully folded letters, accompanied by yellowing photographs. Lily picked up the first letter. Her eyes filled with tears as she recognized her mother's fine, elegant handwriting. "My daughter, if you are reading this, it is because the danger has returned. I have protected a secret that was not mine, the evidence of crimes committed by those who believe themselves untouchable. This notebook and these letters contain what they tried to erase. But now it is up to you to decide, hide the truth, or reveal it to the world. Lily swayed, moved. Her mother hadn't just protected a memory, she'd carried a burden that could shake even the most powerful. Alexander took one of the photos. His face hardened as he recognized men in suits, gathered around a table. "I know some of them," he murmured. "Political figures. Financiers. Men I thought were above suspicion." The old man nodded. "That's why they're hunting you. If this secret gets out, their empire will collapse." A heavy silence fell over the room. Lily felt her heart swell with the weight of this truth. She was no longer just a poor girl trying to save a memory, she held in her hands the power to change a corrupt world. But at the same moment, a dull noise echoed through the underground passages. Footsteps were approaching. They were not alone. The footsteps echoed louder and louder in the dungeons. Alexander whispered. "They found us." Lily hurriedly put the letters and notebook back in her bag. The old man closed the trunk, but his shifty gaze unnerved Alexander. He wasn't as calm as before. "Quickly, follow me," he said in a hasty, almost nervous voice. They walked down a long, narrow corridor, the walls covered in moss. The sound of their pursuers grew closer every moment. Lily struggled to keep her breath, but she held on. She knew everything depended on these documents. Arriving in front of a heavy wooden door, the old man stopped and took out another key. But as he was about to insert it, he froze. Alexander, attentive, noticed the trembling in his hand. "Open up," he said coldly. The old man sighed. "I can't." He turned around, and his face changed. His blue eyes glowed with a dark gleam. "Forgive me, Lily. Your mother thought she could trust me. But the truth is, I never stopped working for them." Lily's heart stopped. You led them here?" she cried, her throat tight with betrayal. The old man nodded, almost ashamed. "I have no choice. They're holding my family. If I give you the notebook and letters, they'll spare them." Alexander took a step forward, his icy gaze fixed on him. "And you think they'll keep their word?" The old man looked away, unable to answer. Suddenly, the silhouettes of the pursuers appeared at the end of the corridor. Alexander grabbed Lily's hand and yanked it away. "Course." They rushed into a side opening hidden behind a collapsed shelf. The old man stood frozen, caught between his forced loyalty and the shame of his betrayal. Lily, with tears in her eyes, ran without looking back. She repeated to herself, "Don't give up. Don't give in." Her mother had believed in her, and she had no right to fail. Alexander, panting, squeezed his hand tighter. "Listen to me, Lily. From now on, we trust no one. Not even those who claim to be our allies." Behind them, voices echoed, orders shouted into the wet stone. They didn't have much time left. But ahead, a thin stream of fresh air perhaps indicated an exit, or a new trap. Breathless, Lily and Alexander emerged from the tunnel. Before them stretched a windswept cliff overlooking a vast valley. The cool air whipped their faces, but behind them, the voices and footsteps of their pursuers still echoed. Alexander pulled Lily aside, toward a rocky recess. "Give me the letters. If we fall, at least you'll remain free." But Lily shook her head, her eyes blazing with new determination. "No. This is my legacy. This is my responsibility. I will not let you sacrifice yourself alone." At that moment, the men in black emerged from the cave. The old man was with them, his face marked with shame. One of the leaders stepped forward, a weapon pointed at Lily. "Give me the notebook. Or you'll never see the sun rise tomorrow." A tense silence fell, broken only by the wind. Alexander took a step forward, his fists clenched. But Lily held him back. She took a deep breath and took out the notebook. Everyone held their breath. But instead of holding it out, she abruptly opened the letters, holding them up to the wind. "You want the truth? Then I will give it to the world," she cried in a trembling but powerful voice. A moment of shock paralyzed their enemies. Alexander understood immediately and took out his phone, filming the documents in the twilight. Within seconds, he transmitted the images to a network of journalists he knew. "Too late," he said coldly. "Even if you kill us, the truth is already gone." Rage flashed across the chief's face. But before he could act, sirens wailed in the distance. Alerted by witnesses to the train and suspicious movements in the city, the authorities were arriving. Panicked, the men in black scattered. The old man stood there, tears in his eyes. "Forgive me, Lily," he murmured before disappearing in confusion. Lily, her hands still shaking, dropped to her knees. Alexander joined her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "You made the choice your mother would have wanted. The truth." She looked up at him, exhausted but proud. "I have nothing left to lose, except what she left me. And now, it's not just my fight." The sun was sinking behind the mountains, painting the sky red and gold. Lily and Alexander, standing side by side, knew their lives would never be the same again. What began as the sale of a simple jewel led to the revelation of a secret capable of shaking empires. And now a poor girl and a billionaire were bound together by a truth more precious than all the gold in the world.